Hey everybody, it's Jay here and welcome back to my channel. So today we are building another tiny house, this time in the world of Windenburg. I said I was going to use the one that I already built in Windenburg as the one, but since it's such a large world, I decided to go ahead and build with the other style. So the first tiny house I built was on the island and it's kind of like a modern build. So this one is in the old town part and it's more of a really old Tudor style build, and I wanted to have a little bit of fun with the shape of a tiny house and like what it could be. So we have technically a 4-story tiny house. So there's a basement and then 3 upper levels, and yeah, I was really happy with how this turned out. It kind of I didn't want it to go more, I don't know, I didn't really want it to be like medieval looking or like fantasy-ish, if that makes any sense. So I kind of went with this like it's an old building, it's in the old town, which the other buildings are a little bit bigger around it, but they kind of have that same like tall like height type thing to them. So yeah, I decided to go with that, and I kind of like for design, like who this would be for, is I did multiple rooms, and I kind of figured this would be like a college type house. So in the screenshots and stuff, I made like a bunch of college kids, and um, in doing these like builds around the World Series, I want to kind of showcase a lot of the specific things or even gameplay that came with the specific pack. So like for instance, Get Together came with a lot of like social things in terms of like clubs and stuff like that. So I included a lot of like there's a DJ booth and like dance things outside. It's kind of like a party house. So pretty happy with how it turned out. I struggled a bit with the stairs in the back because there wasn't really a way for me to put the stairs inside, and if I did, it would just take up the squares. So I struggle a bit. I end up tweaking the roofs and everything, but yeah, this turned out to be a 4. Yeah, I think it's a 4 bedroom and 2 bathroom. One of the bathrooms is like a 1 by 1 tile, and then the other bathroom is like a regular on the like basement level or on the first level. Sorry, but yeah, I think the overall like exterior of this build turned out really good. I used a lot of the like windows and doors that I don't normally get to with this pack, and I think it turned out really nice. So the first there is, I believe, 2 bedrooms with double beds and then two bedrooms with single beds. Yeah, and multiple outdoor areas. There's like a bunch of little like entrances into the house. I want it to look like kind of like an old style like apartment building or something. And I really like the shape of it, like doing all these corbels and everything, and the awnings. There were a lot of really great building aspects to this pack. So just doing it in this like Tudor style. The only thing I don't necessarily like about the lot is where it is, because the lighting isn't that great. It never like fully hits the front of the build. So that was just kind of annoying, but I mean, it turns out it works in the end. Um, so yeah, like I said, I'm just adding in some of the build. Eventually, I do go through with the wallpaper and kind of with the Tudor style, and with this pack, there's a lot of variance in terms of like cross beams or different kind of like stone or brick patterns. So I kind of do that to give the exterior a lot of like dimension. And I believe, yeah, this is the small home of the tiny house classifications. So this has, I believe, exactly 100 tiles. A lot of it, well, not a lot of it, but some of it are tiles that I had to use for like the stairs or like balconies or something like that. So that's where that comes in. But yeah, I like this whole like little sunroom area that eventually like turns into the living room. You can see me play around a couple times with the roof height. I think the first two levels are medium, and then the top one is a normal, or maybe the first level is a normal too, a small. But yeah, I gave each room like its own distinct personality too, based on like who I think would live there. You obviously can change it if you download this. My gallery ID is ThornSims06. I'll also have that in the description below. So here you can see me kind of playing around with the wallpaper textures and just doing some stone here, some like brick there, and those kind of things. Adding some like wooden details in the facade of the house. When you get some of the pre-existing like build options, like those awnings or like even the windows that have like the built-in roofs on them, the color swatches for the house have like a preset roof color that kind of like matches it. So if you didn't notice, that's why I kind of did that the covered wood box thing in the back. That's why I placed that first before I did like the roof or anything, because I wanted to make sure that all the what's it called, the wallpaper color matched the roof texture with a lot of the build assets. So that's why I did that. Here I'm going into the Buy Debug catalog, and I am putting in these fences, these kind of like stone walls, and they came with Get Together, and they kind of like match the surrounding world. I do change the one side in a little bit to make room for the DJ booth, and I do make that covered, by the way, because it a lot of electronics, if like it rains or something like that, if you have seasons, they'll break automatically when it rains. So I covered it so that hopefully won't happen. That being said, everything is play tested, and I do know that won't happen because it was raining in the game. Everything's play tested, everything works in this build. The only thing that's a little glitchy is the fence, because it's from Buy Debug. Some objects aren't necessarily registered as objects, so they can like walk right through that, which it depends on like if that's bothersome to you or not. You can like fully replace it with a real fence if you want. It didn't really bother me that much. They didn't really clip into it a whole lot. So one thing that I did have to move a little bit before I put this up on the gallery is in playtesting it, the fridge I had next to one of those columns, and I don't know if it was a column or another object that I placed, but it wouldn't let them use the fridge. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So this is the little tiny bedroom in the basement. I went with stone walls and a brick floor because I thought that would kind of like fit the basement feel. I do put a rug in here and kind of try to make it a little bit more homey. So I kept the furnishings for the bedrooms pretty basic. They have a lot of them have like TVs and things. They have like all the necessities and like a couple decorations, but they're not like fully cluttered. Based on if you do decide to use this as like a dorm or like a college living type thing, you can decorate the bedrooms based on your specific sim. So here I'm adding lighting around the exterior of the house, then going back in, and I originally went with these like very bright colors for each individual room. A couple of these I kind of toned down a bit, especially in the kitchen. I was gonna do those really bright colors, and then the bright purple countertops that are like the cheaper countertops, and I just didn't think it worked that much. I didn't want it to be like a very cheap style of house, so I do change that up, adding in some built-in planter boxes, because I like to do like ground details like that when I don't put houses on foundations, because it adds a little bit of like dimension. So yeah, so just looking through the debug category, I was looking at the surrounding neighborhood to see what trees are in there, because Windenburg, as good of a world as it is, the issue that I have with it is they didn't put any of the trees in the catalog. So we now have the debug where you can get them that way, but yeah, I added those trees that are matching the surrounding world in the front. I wanted a lot of outdoor activity for this build, so we put in a bar, a couple of bikes. There's some like planter planter pots in the one of the little entryways here on the side on the left. This front one I kind of kept basic because it's like the main entrance to the house, so I just did a couple benches. And then this one I did like a little table, and then you'll see me put the planters on the side here in a minute. So I wasn't quite sure what to do with this little hall going into the back door into the kitchen, because the stairway's there, so it's kind of like long and narrow. So I just kept it kind of plain. Added in some of these built-in trees with the little pots, just sizing those up and then sizing the tree down to make it look like it's, there. Because a lot of the plants that are like indoor plants technically won't change with the season, so I like to do stuff like that for the outside. And then here you can see me adding in a little gazebo for the DJ booth, and then I put in that little dance floor. And yeah, so I do take that stone wall out here in a little bit, and I replace it just so it is a little bit closed off. I think I replace it with some like shrubs or something. But I really like the design style for this. I don't know which one I'm going to use next for the tiny house. I'm either going to do, I have an idea for one in San Myshuno, or an island one, or maybe even a trailer for Strangerville, for the world that came with that. So I didn't delete any of the flooring underneath those shrubs, because I thought it was kind of like, because they're so big, it could kind of look like they're coming out of the stonework. But again, if that's something that you don't like, you can change it. Just adding in some picnic tables, finishing up the exterior. And so I've said it before, but this build series that I'm going to do, I'm not going to necessarily limit myself with any of the packs, except for not Windenburg, but the 3 base game worlds, which is Oasis Springs, Willow Creek, and Newcrest. I already did one for Oasis Springs, and that one is they're going to be base game plus Tiny Living. So as long as you have the Tiny Living pack and base game, you can download those 3 builds that I'm going to have on my gallery. So here you can see me thinking that color is a little bit too much and changing that in the kitchen. I went with the cheaper countertops because I thought, this is a renovated old building for these college kids. And yeah, really happy with how that turned out. Like I said, I didn't put a TV in the main living area because I thought it would be more of like a communal type spot, and a lot of the bedrooms have TVs, but I did put in a computer right here. You can see me doing. I don't find computers are that necessary now that we have laptops and they can kind of just do it wherever, but I still wanted to do that considering it's a college house. A communal computer might be a good idea. So I added in one of those little plants that we got with Tiny Living. I thought those were really cool. the little succulent wall thing that we got from Seasons, I believe. And yeah, so I wanted a lot of like different skill building options for different types of sims that go here, because it's not in a university world, so it's not like as strict as like artsy kids go to Brightchester and then science kids go to Foxbury. So like it could be a mix of like all different kinds, which was really cool. I really like that they did that with the University Pact, where you don't have to have your sim live in one specific spot to go to school. It adds like a nice like realism to it. So this bathroom is kind of like the main bathroom. I went with this like these kind of older pink plumbing things. I was gonna say appliances, but they're not appliances. But yeah, I liked how that turned out. It's just pretty simple. When we get into the bedrooms, they're not furnished like a whole lot. Here you can see me looking for any kind of like bar or something like that to put in that 1x1 bathroom, but I couldn't really find anything that I like, so I just went ahead and put the curtain there and then deleted it, because everything was like having weird shadows, and then it would like bolt to like nothing in midair, so I just thought the regular curtain looked good. So yeah, that bathroom is fully functional. One thing about these tiny houses that most of the tiny houses on the gallery you want to keep in mind when you download is having to move objects on cheat, because a lot of people will probably be utilizing that quite a bit. So yeah, including double beds is kind of hard, because I've heard a couple people say that you can have your sims like scoot over to go to sleep or something, but really realistically you have to have both sides available. You can't like have it pushed against a wall, so that's kind of like limiting in terms of space. But I was able to fit 2 double bedrooms in this build, so pretty happy with that. This is one of the single bedrooms. Just did like the skateboards from Parenthood and a couple posters and simple rug, trash bin, and then working on the last bedroom upstairs. And I figured this is where like if this was like a fraternity or sorority, this is where like the head person lived, or it's a little bit more like adult and put together. So I kind of like that aspect of it. So yeah, make sure to like this video and go ahead and follow me on the gallery. I will be posting all of the builds for this series. So with that, we're just adding finishing touches to the build, and I will speak to you guys soon. Bye!